Welcome to Glow Up or Get Out. All right, so today we're going to go over the very dreadful topic of imposter syndrome and make it a little less scary.
Yay!
I think this is like something, the word syndrome just sounds like really scary, but I think this is definitely something that a lot of people do go through.
The word, for some reason, I immediately think of The Incredibles.
Syndrome. Oh.
Syndrome.
Dude.
But yeah, the word is scary.
Yeah, the word is scary, and I think it's a lot more common than most people would think. I think also just it hasn't been talked about enough like in the past, but I think now everyone's trying to like catch up on self-evaluation and self-help, and so this topic comes up a lot. And if you're still like confused about it, maybe we can put it in a little bit more simpler terms and give you some tips on how to kind of handle it or cope with it.
So to define it,
imposter syndrome is a concept describing individuals who are marked by an inability to internalize their accomplishments and a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. So basically, imposter syndrome is just like your insecurities building up and you're afraid that people are going to find you as a fraud based on these insecurities, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like as an example, it could be like, I don't actually know how to do all these things, and like that wasn't really a success. Like that was just a chance
that was just
that
luck.
Happened. Yeah. Like it just happened that way. Like I didn't get this job because I deserve it. Like it just like, oh, my mom knew the person, so I got hired. Saying things like that to yourself is just really not letting your accomplishments shine through, sweetie.
Yep.
One thing I didn't know was that there's different types of imposters, I guess you would say.
Imposter syndromes.
Yeah, is it different syndromes or is it just a different type of imposter? I don't know. How many are there? 5?
There's 5, yeah.
Okay.
So there's the perfectionist, the expert, the soloist, the superwoman, and natural genius. This photo that we're looking at says the great mind, but I think a better description would be the natural born genius. So we're gonna go through them, and then you might relate to one more than the other. You'll get a better picture of like what kind of imposter you are and how to deal with it.
First one is the perfectionist. So like an example of something a perfectionist would say would be, I should deliver a perfect performance 100% of the time, and my work must always be A+.
Yeah. So I think I have found like an article, and it says, perfectionists set excessively high goals for themselves, and when they fail to reach a goal, they experience major self-doubt and worry about measuring up. Whether they realize it or not, this group can also be control freaks, feeling like they want something done right, they have to do it themselves. Yeah.
I feel like I knew a lot of kids like that in high school.
Yeah.
They were just constantly
kind of relate to this one, but I think other ones do relate more.
Yeah.
But I can see how that really hinders like someone's ability to move forward, or like just feel like nothing is ever good enough, and in that way you develop this imposter syndrome of like, I will never measure up to that perfectionism that I want. And I mean, true, but
like you shouldn't.
But
though.
You shouldn't. Like that's not how it's gonna.
That's not life.
That's not life.
You're not gonna get an A, and plus, like down the road in life, it's less about getting A's and like performing 100%, and more just about like how people like interact with you, what results you get, whether that be like I got a client or whatever. And if you lose a client, let's say as an example, if we're using the same thing, like that's not. It doesn't mean you're not good either.
Yeah.
Like, it just means that situation didn't work out.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're a fraud and you're not good at your job.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Like, of course, it's just a matter of, like, working on... Because it's almost like you need to... Like, I think for all of these in general, I guess we'll go over the tips later, but, like, in general, just try to practice, like, the actual... I don't want to say thought, but like the actual, like the...
I think it's just awareness, like just being aware of...
But awareness isn't enough, because I feel like, for example, for me, awareness only makes me, like, sometimes I just do the same shit, but I'm more aware of it, and then I get more angry at myself because I'm aware of it and I'm like, why am I doing this?
Okay, yeah.
And so that's why I don't think awareness itself is enough for most people. Start a practice of like much more than just letting go, but like knowing that your thought patterns aren't you, and like you don't have to believe every single thought that comes up into your head about yourself. Like, not your brain is just like this thing that creates a bunch of thoughts, and you like don't necessarily need to agree to all of them.
They're
like,
not all true.
They're not all true. You have the choice to pick which ones you believe in, and I know that sounds kind of silly, but you genuinely do. Like, and I think starting a practice of like when a thought comes up that's negative, sitting with that thought and being like, you know what, I acknowledge that, I don't think that's true about myself, and move forward, you know?
It's sort of like big mouths. Like the hormone monster. You got anxiety over here. You got depression here. It's like you got all these thoughts, but like you decide which ones to listen to. And sometimes they win. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're good thoughts. It's just a matter of like...
It's a practice that you have to have with yourself to like acknowledge that you are much more than just those thoughts, you know?
But we'll get into like the specifics after we go through all of them.
Some questions that this article asks, is like to ask yourself if you can relate, is have you ever been accused of being a micromanager? Do you have great difficulty delegating? Even when you're able to do so, do you feel frustrated and disappointed in the results? When you miss the insanely high mark on something, do you accuse yourself of not being cut out for your job and ruminate on it for days? Also, do you feel like your work must be 100% perfect 100% of the time?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like everyone might relate to all of them in a small way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
maybe I am too much of an imposter.
Yeah, maybe I just hella imposter over here. So the next one is the expert, and someone who resonates with this one would say, if I were really smart, I would already know everything. I should already know how to do this.
Right. That one.
That hurts.
That hurts. So experts measure their competence based on what and how much they know or can do. Believing that they will never know enough, they fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable. A few questions that you may ask yourself are, do you shy away from applying to a job posting unless you meet every single educational requirement? Are you constantly seeking out trainings or certifications because you think you need to improve your skills in order to succeed? Even if you've been in your role for some time, can you relate to feeling like you don't know enough? Do you shudder when someone says you're an expert? Like, is it almost like you're fearful of like being an expert in this because you're like, I can never know enough, and like,
yeah,
you know, if people see me as like that person, I'm scared that I'm not gonna like
perform to the
expectation.
We had issues with expectations, that's all I gotta say. Bro, we're constantly talking about expectations.
We're like, expectations, let go of them. And we're over here like...
We're like, but other people's, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Yeah, that literally...
That one resonates, huh?
That's right there, describes it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that one hits home for both of us in our current like lives.
Because it's like, consultants, you're supposed to be an expert.
Yeah.
Which, like, to an extent, yes.
But we're always consistently learning. Yeah. And that's, like, the process that we have to learn. And also, like, with that comes, like, almost the knowledge that we need to have within ourselves to be like, you know what? We did our best for what we currently know. The future may hold something different. Like, we're an expert now and we're an expert then. You know?
Like, we just learn better ways to do things or whatever.
Yeah. With that thought, I feel like if you are this kind of person, like, you would probably resonate with the fact that like you feel like you consistently need to know more and more and more, which may then lead to you procrastinating on whatever you need to be doing. And I think something that is helpful is like remembering that, you know, nothing can happen unless you start. So like you can build up all these skills and whatever that you think you need, but at the end of the day, if you don't start, it's not gonna like ever happen. Yeah, it's like not actionable.
The more you try and fill your brain with things that you might not need at the moment, but you know you'll need one day, it's like, what's the use to that? Like, you're not going to use it right now. You're not, like, you're just going to forget about it anyways, and then you taking time to learn that skill is taking away from things you need to do.
Yeah.
Just like works against each other.
Totally. You don't need to be perfect to start.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to know everything to start. All right, the next one is the soloist. Do you want to read?
Interesting. Oh. Soloist. Something they would say is, I believe that true competence is equal to my own unassisted achievements. I must do everything myself. Which, dang. I don't think I resonate to that as much as the expert. I like to do things alone sometimes. Not all the time.
Not all the time, yeah. So this one says, there are sufferers who feel as though asking for help reveals their phoniness. It's okay to be independent, but not to the extent that you refuse assistance so that you can prove your worth. And then the questions that they ask are, do you firmly feel that you need to accomplish things on your own? I don't need anyone's help. Does that sound like you? Do you frame requests in terms of the requirements of the project rather than your needs as a person?
We definitely talked about this one in a previous podcast.
Yeah. We were talking about how our pride, like I think this is a different way to like
frame that
specific one, but like being prideful in the fact that like you don't need anyone's help. But like, why? Is it because like you genuinely feel like you can do it, or is it because like if you feel like you need someone's help, you're invalidating your worth or your skill? I think that one, it's difficult, but I feel like if you're in that, like you need to kind of like release that expectation that you can do everything on by yourself, because it's not.
Kind of ties into the expert too.
Yeah, I think they're all kind of like going back to each other. Totally. But,
bummer.
Bummer.
So, the next one is the superwoman or man. And someone would say, if I were really competent, I would be able to do it all and do it easily and well. Interesting.
This article says, since people who experience this phenomenon are convinced that they're phonies amongst real deal colleagues, they often push themselves to work harder and harder to measure up. But this is just a false cover-up for their insecurities, and the work overload may harm not only their own mental health, but also their relationships with others. I'm not sure if this applies to you. Here are some questions. Do you stay later at the office than the rest of your team, even past the point that you've completed that day's necessary work? Do you get stressed when you're not working and find downtime completely wasteful? Have you left your hobbies and passions fall by the wayside sacrifice to your work? Do you feel like you haven't truly earned your title despite numerous degrees and achievements, so you feel pressured to work harder and longer than those around you to prove your worth? So I think this one is, again, like all about validation.
Yeah.
It's like you're like yearning for that validation, and you're not necessarily like scared to really fall behind. It's more like you don't feel like you're, again, like measuring up to like these people's expectations, which no one has even probably told you about those expectations, but you have them for yourself because you're insecure about your worth of like whether or not you deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And listen, like you got there. That obviously means you're meant to be there. And I feel like how would you like describe how to like move like towards something different in thought, I guess?
I mean, I like giggled at one of the things you said because I was like, that's so like, it reminds me of myself to do this like work later.
Do you get stressed when you're not
yes,
working and find downtime?
Yes, yeah. That I was like yes, me. But I don't feel like I don't feel like I relate to this specific type, but to stray away from being the superwoman or man, there's like, it's just so, it's all in your head, which they all are, they're all in your head, but think about how much happier you'd be if you were just like okay with what you're doing and like just setting those boundaries in your own mind that like I did what I was supposed to do, and overworking myself every day is eventually going to catch up to me.
Yeah.
Like it will.
I think a lot of them, like we said, are talking about like validation from other people. I think this one hits a little harder though, because I feel like you're trying to like, I think that the title like superwoman or superman, like you're trying to like almost not necessarily save other people, but like you're trying to,
I feel like it's validation for yourself.
Like yeah, like that would be the like cure, I guess that you would say, like finding that inner intuition to like validate yourself and nurturing it,
which honestly might be the cure for all of them, because like at the end of the day, nobody's telling you you're an imposter. It's all in your own thoughts and insecurities.
Yeah.
The last one is the natural genius, and something they would say is, I judge myself on ease and speed. If I were really competent, it would come quickly and easily.
So this one says, people with this competence type believe they need to be natural geniuses. As such, they judge their competence based on ease and speed as opposed to their efforts. In other words, if they take a long time to master something, they feel shame. These types of imposters set their internal bar impossibly high, like a perfectionist. But natural genius types don't just judge themselves based on ridiculous expectations, they also judge themselves based on getting things right on the first try. And when they're not able to do something quickly or fluently, their alarm sounds off. If you're not sure if this applies to you, here's some questions. Are you used to excelling without much effort? Do you have a track record of getting straight A's or gold stars in everything you do? Were you told frequently as a child that you were the smart one in your family or peer group? Do you dislike the idea of having a mentor because you can handle things on your own? Wow. When you're faced with a setback, do you often avoid challenges because it's so uncomfortable to try something you're not great at?
I feel like I can relate to this one too.
Yeah.
Like,
me too a little bit.
I mean, I don't think I genuinely feel like if I don't do something fast, I'm good at it or something. But I feel like the questions I can relate to. Like, yes, those things were like growing up, whatever. Those are things that were said to me or whatever.
Yeah.
And then now I have this expectation of myself that like things should come naturally.
Right.
Like I shouldn't have to work super hard on things. But I don't think it's to the point where I'm like, you're a fraud if I can't. So I feel like what was the second one?
The second question?
No, the second type that we talked about. I feel like the expert is the one I relate to the most.
Got it.
But I still feel like I take a little bit from them
everyone, right? Yeah. I think this one, I feel like this one has a lot of embedded, like, not necessarily trauma, but a lot of like expectations and like things that, you know, you built up probably from like family, or I feel like all of them though, like imposter syndrome comes from cultural expectations, family expectations. Like we'll talk about that later and how to like address them.
Yeah.
But in that sense, you like probably feel the need to just, like you said, like just always
be on it
no matter what. But I think the best way to think about this one is like to think of yourself as like a work in progress. Like you don't necessarily need to know everything all the time. Like,
or be at everything.
So good at it, like quickly. Like it's not everyone's equipped to be perfect in every single form, you know? And I think like the ease part of it, like when you think about life, like life is full of challenges and like hardships, but like those hardships make you stronger and make you feel like probably uplifted. So like if you're consistently just doing good all the time, like where's the growth, you know? And isn't that what we're all seeking? I don't know. That's just my thought on that.
I don't know. You tell me, guys.
You tell me.
So those are the types.
Yeah.
If you feel like you relate to several, or if, I mean, there's not 7, so I guess to few, any, just look into it. Like look up actual articles on those specific types, and maybe there'll be more insight than we have. But we are going to get into tips. As you were mentioning earlier, the imposter syndrome, our lovely friend here that we're chatting about today, she comes from different parts of our lives.
Right.
Throughout our lives.
So I think the best way to like define them are by like the cultural conditioning and then also like family or familial conditioning. Mm-hmm. So I think culturally, I think for women specifically, like the imposter syndrome is because we like have never like measured up to men. And we have like this societal expectation of like being a certain way. So when we try to enter the fields of men, quote unquote, like the fields of their abilities, like we feel like we need to measure up or be more. And I think that this causes like a big like dissonance within ourselves that we will never measure up as we're trying to achieve the measuring up, you know? And I think a factor, like one of the ones that like I thought about when we were reading them was the, I guess the Superwoman. I feel like that one resonates to the fact that like we feel like we need to be doing more because like like we need to literally just do more to be more. And I feel like that isn't always the case. Like we're no longer in that place in life, or like in times of life, like where women aren't seen necessarily as equals. I mean, there's obviously not a perfect balance currently, but there's also like where we've come to a time where it's no longer so like
it's not voiced as
loudly. And for us to like continue like to have these thoughts that we're not measuring up, I feel like it's only going to make it a little bit worse.
It's just going to perpetuate the cycle
is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I mean, that's a good point. Like, that's a good example of a cultural, I mean, is it social or cultural?
I think that would be social.
Yeah. So, like,
from a cultural, but
yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, in certain cultures, yeah.
It's
like, whatever. A societal, cultural standpoint that, like, yeah, women do feel the need, which isn't necessarily true. It's just, like, a deep-rooted feeling.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's like, at least one step at a time. At least it's not true anymore, like, to majority of the world. Because it just reminds me of, like, people from high school. Like, cultural and socially, they had their own things, which then ties into their familial things.
Right.
That made them feel like they had to perform more because their siblings, say, like, were on track to be doctors or something. And it's like, well, you need to be at least this as well.
Right.
So perform this way and, like, behave this way. You can't have these sorts of relationships or friendships or lives in general. So then you take that, and then all of a sudden you're released to life, college, whatever you end up doing. And you're like,
I'm fucking anxious.
You're like, what do I do? Yeah.
I agree. I think for familial, the one that really stands out to me, I think I've seen it in all of my siblings. And, like, when I try to explain these things to, like, my mom, she just, like, it takes it too much to heart, which it's like, you did your best. I'm not, like, you're probably trying to be encouraging, but at the same time, like, it's like a hard balance. It's a very thin line between encouraging and, like, being
criticized.
Not criticized, but, like, implementing these, like, thought patterns on a kid that they need to measure up. You know what I mean? But anyway, so, like, for my brother, I feel like we have always been, like, he's the smart one in the family. Like, he's, like, the natural born leader. It's called natural genius.
Natural genius.
But we've always been, like, you're the smart one. He's the genius kid of, like, all three of us. And, like, I think to him, that really began to, like, take a toll as he, like, moved forward into college. Because I really do feel like that's when it kind of starts to, like...
manifest.
It literally, like, grows for some reason at that point. But I think since then, like, he probably started developing, like, the thought patterns of, like, oh, well, I just went only to, like, UC Irvine because he was trying to go to MIT and got waitlisted. And he's probably, like, that's where already, like, worth shot down, you know? And then it just turned into, like, him getting these amazing, incredible jobs and never feeling, like, totally equipped to be in them.
Yeah.
And it really took a toll on his self-esteem. And I think that kind of really... Now to me, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, it was imposter syndrome this whole time. And I see where it came from because all of us, like, pushing this title or this thing on him.
You're the smart one, so be smart.
Figure it out. Yeah. And, like...
It sounds like a compliment.
But at the same time, it's a big pressure and expectation of sorts.
Yeah.
And I don't think my mom ever, like, got it. And I think she just, like, she would always see him be upset when we would call him something like that and, like, continue it and be like, why are you upset? I'm just calling you smart. But I think for him it was, like, a deeper thing. Like, he felt like not up to par.
I'm so smart, why am I not adding up to X, Y, and Z?
Right. I think that societal and familial conditioning truly puts these things in our head that create imposter syndrome and then us feel not worthy or, like, not equipped to do things.
Yeah.
I think it all just comes back realizing that, like, we are probably not seeing ourselves as other people are seeing us. Maybe you feel like everyone's seeing you in your light, like, in the way that you think you are, but they're probably having a lot more positive things to say about you than you're currently saying to yourself. It's just all about, like, releasing that expectation that, like, you gotta be more, you gotta do more, you know?
Yeah. No, it's not necessarily anybody's fault where imposter syndrome comes from. It's just the way we are as a society, and, like, it's just the go society. Like, you gotta be X, Y, and Z to be successful or happy, or impressive. Like, it's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Right.
And we're all dealing with it. So that's like one of the tips, is to remember you're not alone in this. And there's people who are literally the most successful people in the world that feel like they're frauds.
Frauds, yeah.
I'm sure there are like literal billionaires who are like, how the fuck did I get here?
Cash.
All this cash in my hands. What happened?
At that point, fuck my imposter syndrome. I am that bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think another one that I came up with in my head right now was like, I think it's more about like familial, but like, or even societal. Think about like the things like that began your imposter syndrome, like kind of be aware of like where it kind of stemmed from, the root of it, and take that and then almost like nurture yourself as if like you were a parent to yourself, and tell yourself like, okay, yeah, you might be really, really smart, but also if you don't get this quickly, it just means it's going to take a little bit more time. Yeah. You know, like try to nurture those thoughts so that they don't take a toll on you and end up feeling like you're not worthy, you know, or you're not smart enough or whatever.
I think understanding the root probably helps a lot, because then you're just like, you know what, I'm not like valid in these feelings. Like, it's just from constantly hearing this or doing this, whatever, you know, like it makes you feel like the experience isn't all in your head anymore. Yeah. It's like there was actual things that made me feel this way.
Right.
When someone says, why do you feel that way, you can actually give answers, because when people say, why do you feel that way about anything, like you get in a fight with someone about something and you're just like like scrambling for an answer.
Yeah,
you can tell yourself saying, why do I feel like that, and you can be like, because
this happened.
Like, settle down, bitch. I know what's up in my head.
Know where you came from.
I know where you came from.
And then there's like other smaller tips that are just kind of like, things, implement them into your life. So like, I think a good one that you put up is tracking your success, whether that be journaling, logging your achievements, and even like the hardships and the bad things that you go through. Taking a look, I feel like this one has been in my life, but I never necessarily like thought about it as like me tracking my success. But like whenever, and this is more like about love, because you can also have like imposter syndrome, not just about career, but like about love and like anything else in your life.
Yeah.
I think for love, like growing up, I would write about like the little breakups or the little hardships that I had about relationships. And now looking back at them, it's almost funny to me. Like, it's so funny that you felt that way, like unworthy, because that person was probably not even worth it. And also you just were growing, like you were just a little bean, like no, it wasn't that serious. I always think about whether or not, like if I'm journaling currently about my hardships, if like when I'm 40 I look at my journals and I'm gonna be like, that's hilarious, like that was nothing,
honestly.
So I think like doing that, but like staying consistent with it and maybe reading it, maybe not like
on your birthday every year.
Yeah, but like every so often, like have a time to sit with yourself and be like, wow, I did that and I've grown past it, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is really helpful for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I freaking need to start doing that.
Start doing that one. I just started doing that one, so
I mean, I feel like logging your achievements is a lot easier, because those are just literally things you can put on social media, like got a raise, got whatever, new job, new car, new freaking haircut, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, achievements are a lot easier to track, but I feel like the hardships are even, like, I don't know, deeper, like, because when you read that stuff, or whatever you do, take pictures of it, whatever your version of logging is, it's like, damn, like, I did that. And it reminds you, like, you ain't just a fraud, like, you are a human going through life, doing things.
Yeah.
Another big one would be distinguishing the difference between humility and fear. So, like, I feel like the whole idea of imposter syndrome is fear. Like, you're just scared that you're going to be found out. You're scared that you're not enough. You're scared that other people don't think you're enough. You're scared you don't know enough.
Yeah.
So, like, distinguishing when you're in your own head, being like, am I being scared about this? Or am I just humbling myself and being like, oh, it's okay, like, you don't know this, and that's okay.
Right.
Because telling yourself that it's okay to not know something and bringing yourself down between being like, oh, I'm scared, I don't know, wait, I'm not good enough, I'm, you know, like, just the difference between thoughts is when you can, like, stop imposter syndrome and be like, oh, I don't know how to change the color on Illustrator. for example.
Just like an
Just
example.
a quick example.
I don't know where it came from, but
Don't know where that came from, but it just felt right. Say you don't know how to change the color of something on Illustrator. You can sit there and be like, ah, shit, something I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I'll just look it up. Or you can be like, I'm not good enough. I can't do
straighter.
Yeah, I'm not going to be a good illustrator. I'm not good at my job. I shouldn't even have this. Like, it's too easy of a task. How could I not know?
Yeah.
Like, very different thoughts. Very different.
Yeah.
So, I think if you feel yourself having fearful thoughts, sit back and validate them or invalidate them. Like, am I actually having like a genuine fear about my job and not knowing enough, or am I just like overreacting in my own head?
Yeah. Or am I like, are you just like making it a bigger deal than you really need to?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I agree. That's a good one for sure. One we have is like knowing that you're not alone in this. I think number one, you're listening to a podcast talking, two people talking about imposter syndrome and how we relate.
Yeah.
I think this one hits home for me because I feel like I'm consistently in this realm of imposter syndrome that like when I'm looking around at people in my life, I genuinely think that they all have it figured out and that they're never fearful or never going through these things that I'm going through. Like,
Right.
I almost victimize myself into saying like, yeah, but like they have this experience or they are doing that. Like,
Right.
we're all starting somewhere. It's just they had the initiative to start it and to almost just like push themselves no matter like regardless of, despite of, and I forget that. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking these things. And sometimes I think like what hit me one time was like I was truly just talking out loud about how like I can't do certain thing. And Bodhi straight up said like, stop it with the imposter syndrome. And I was like, fuck you, bro. Like, all right. Because like it was true. It was just like in that moment, why did I even need to say that? There was literally no reason for it.
Yeah.
It was probably just me like trying to validate my fear. And it's like, why?
And then asking for it from someone else.
Yeah.
Which, like, you don't have to
I
do
don't
that.
need that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Get friends that call you out.
Get friends that call you out, but also, like, just know that you're not the only one who's feeling like an imposter.
Yeah.
Look around and be like, probably they're feeling something.
They're feeling some type of way.
So I gotta chill. We all gotta chill.
Yeah. I agree. That's a good one. I mean, I guess that goes to the perfectionist of letting go of perfectionism, which, like, okay. If you're the perfectionist, okay.
Don't be sad.
Like, what do I do then? It's like letting go of your whole being, I guess. But I don't really know the steps to let go of perfectionism. I mean, it's all just very intangible things. Like, just feel like you're good enough. Like, it's just like all this stuff that you can say, but like you genuinely just have to do the work and start valuing what you can do, how you do it, and like not everything's gonna be perfect.
Yeah. I think getting comfortable, I don't think I'm necessarily a perfectionist, but I think I have tendencies to be that way. And I think something that's really helpful for me, I think I said it earlier in the podcast, but genuinely allowing yourself to know that you did your best and your best is enough. That is perfection in itself. Like, you did your best. I know you could have probably done it better. In your head, you think that. But in that moment, whatever reason, for whatever time, whatever like inability you had that day, that was your best. And you need to like be okay with that and then move forward. And tomorrow maybe do better. But don't beat yourself about it. Like just be like, okay, today was probably, like, it's not up to par for what I want, but I did my best and that's okay. And then tomorrow, I can do more, you know? But also don't take it too far and be like, I'm going to do
more every day.
More every day. It's just like, you're going to do slightly better.
Yeah.
And, it's just being comfortable with the fact that every day is different. Some days will not allow you for 110%, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You need to feel okay with that.
And some tasks alone. Like, even if you're having a great day, but whatever your work is, maybe it's just not coming out the way you're envisioning. It doesn't mean that, like, you're not good at your job. It's just, maybe today my brain is somewhere else.
Totally.
So I gotta think about it tomorrow instead.
Totally. With that, I think also, like, a problem that perfectionists may have is that once things are like going bad, the rest of the day or the rest of the thing that you're doing has to continue and be bad.
Yeah.
But know that you can literally restart or reset your day at any point in time in your day. Like, it doesn't have to be tomorrow. You don't have to do better tomorrow.
That's true.
You know? You can 1 minute you can be really upset at yourself and then like relax, talk to yourself, be like, you know what? I'm not going to let it continue this way tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but like
5 minutes from
5 minutes from now, I'm not going to allow myself to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Let's move forward, you know?
True. You don't have to wait an entire 24 hours to fix something. You can
Absolutely.
fix it in 5 minutes. That's a good point.
A little thing that I found out from, I don't know where I found it. I think it was like a podcast, but it was a 3-step ladder. And this is more about like doing a practice with these types of tips.
Yeah.
So the first one, the first step in the ladder would be awareness. And again, like I said, I think awareness, we both said that awareness is the thing. Like it's the key to opening up other things.
Right.
Just knowing the root of where things come from and, you know, why you have these initial thoughts is so important. But that might not be enough for you. Like for some people that would be, and like you like could already process like, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, if that's not enough for you, the next step in that ladder would be, what do you want to believe in yourself? Like, what would be the opposite of that thought? Like,
it's taking me 3 days to learn how to code this website.
The what do you believe, what do you want to believe could be like, oh, this is hard.
I'm learning.
I am learning, yeah.
I'm learning how to do something I didn't know how to do before.
I learned a new skill.
Right.
Period. And like that kind of a thing, like implementing the opposite of what you're thinking already gives you something to go off of, you know? And then the third one would be practicing that literally like 3-step process of like, all right, this is the thought. This is what I want to believe. Let's practice it now. Let's put it into work. And just like you created the habit of that nasty first awareness thought, you can make a new thought.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're like, you just have to know that your brain is something that literally is just like spewing out bullshit. It's just spewing out just nothingness.
Yeah.
And you have the availability to put the right thoughts in and implement them into your brain. And it's just that trigger of like putting it in a different form.
Yeah.
And practicing it. And sooner or later, that new thought that you have is going to become a habit. And that habit is now a healthy habit versus like the imposter syndrome habit.
Right. I feel like it's so overwhelming to like be an adult.
Totally. Just you have to be too fucking aware.
You just like literally, are you hurting other people's feelings? Are you hurting your own feelings? Are you doing good for the world? Like all this stuff. And you're like, I'm gonna scream. But just start small. I know we give advice like every week on this podcast, but if something really resonates with you one of the weeks, like just focus on that for a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it takes for you to feel like, okay, like I think I've mastered that. Or like, I mean, for imposter syndrome, it's something that can come and go. Like I feel like for me, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
So this is just something that you can practice when it happens, and it's not something that like is a daily thing. It's more just like when you feel it, you feel it, and that's a part of being aware. Like unfortunately, we just have to be aware of everything.
Yeah.
So
I also think that like this might be an overwhelming thought, but you're gonna consistently go through these periods or this like thought or like this. Just you're gonna go through this life like with these issues. It's not gonna be something you can like necessarily master in a month or in a week or whatever. Like, you know, flip flop. Like you said, like, you know, if it just do it as the moment comes. At least knowing you're aware and knowing the practices that you can, like having tools. You know, have a toolbox that you can use when these things come up is super helpful. That's just it. Be aware. Put a toolbox together of things that help you with your issues, and then now you have things to work with, you know, and not necessarily
up in the air.
Just like oh my god, all my thoughts are in the air and I just can't grab a hold of any of them.
Not me wanting to like write down a toolbox now.
If you're Sam who likes to plan shit, that might be really helpful. I actually might do that too.
Like just writing in a journal, you like, have a toolbox and then you make it cute later, like all Animal Crossing cute. I don't know, that's just for fun though. But funsies. I'm just saying, that's kind of a good idea. Like it just feels, that's what I'm saying, it just feels so overwhelming in life to just like have all these things, like make sure imposter syndrome, anxiety, don't get depressed, like but succeed at work. Like it's like all these things. Maybe we'll make that. We'll make like our own or something whenever we feel like it. Girl, I ain't promising anything
Nope.
because then it won't be fun for ourselves.
We'll call it like a toolbox episode.
Yeah, and like if we want to do
Life
that,
toolbox.
we'll post it for you guys, and it'll maybe be a helpful resource for you guys. So
For now,
we ain't when that feels right for us. Okay.
For now, we're conquering imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And giving you that. For now.
But with that, we're heading into glowing hour. So we'll see y'all there.
We'll see you there.
Today, Mel has blessed us with, I'm guessing it's called Things, and then their tagline is For Your Head. And they are hard seltzers. We have mango today.
Delicious.
The branding
On point. Refreshing.
I would definitely say better than White Claws.
Yeah, I think they're more tasteful.
I was going to say, like, you can taste the mango versus it being carbonated water with a hint of...
I just feel like they use, like, mango juice or some shit, which I don't know if they do, but...
It said citric acid on the natural flavors and citric acid are on here, so...
Well, tastes good, though.
We decided to continue into imposter syndrome by talking about social media.
Yeah.
And how, I guess it all ties into imposter syndrome. Because we did talk about, like, the 3 or technically 2, like, cultural, societal, and then familial things that tie into our lives that make us have imposter syndrome. And I feel like the biggest thing that I guess could tie into all 3 as well would be social media.
Yeah.
And just, again, like... the idea of people being like, this is what I expect of you to see, and like, this is what I want people to think of me. It's all ties in.
It's just like whether you're an actual blogger or influencer, or if you're just literally a regular person on Instagram, there is some form that this like manifests as imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And I feel like, I guess it's just as hard for whether you're getting paid to post versus like you're just a regular person, because you have different pressures put on you. So like if you're getting paid to post, or you just consider yourself or want to be an influencer, there's this pressure from society like, oh, I see you, like,
yeah,
I see you trying to be that way, or like you think that your opinion is X, Y, and Z or whatever, so then you have to be a certain type of way on your platform or behave a certain way. And then you feel like, am I even qualified to do this?
Totally.
And then you feel like an imposter if that's your job, you know? Like, you just feel like, I shouldn't even be here then because nobody likes it.
That kind of is really in my head, too. Like, I feel like I'm like that regular person on Instagram, but I have, like, these expectations on my own.
Yeah.
I feel like I get traction on my page, but not necessarily, like, to a level that I would call myself an influencer.
Yeah. But on one hand, everybody's an influencer, you know?
Totally. And that's another thing that, like, I do recognize. And, I mean, to be quite honest, I feel like I've been told that I should try to do that kind of a thing. But I think that's where my imposter syndrome, like, kicks in. I'm like, well, you know, it probably, like, I'm not good enough because it's not happening as quickly as it is for other people. Or, like, I don't have a following right now. Like, or whatever, you know, like, it's never enough. And I think, like, social media is no longer just, like, a place to post your photos, for most people anyway. It's, like, now a business model in a way. And I think that pressure is really scary.
Yeah.
And it manifests into me or many people having imposter syndrome where they don't feel like there's enough room for everybody, you know. And I think that's the thing. Like, you need to recognize that just because someone's greatness is there doesn't lessen yours. Somebody that you look up to in the influencer world is doing a certain way that you like it. That doesn't mean that your way that's similar to theirs is not, like, needed or it's not different enough, because it is. Like, you see life completely different from the way that someone else sees life. And it may be similar.
Yeah.
But there's different quirks about you and different things that, like, people might find fascinating. Just like you have friends in your life, the same way that, like, it goes into social media. Like, certain people will like you for certain things.
I think that's where people get caught up is just like you said, thinking too much about it being like a business model.
Yeah.
When in actuality, you're just trying to gain more like friends.
Yeah.
Like genuine connections with people. Because I think that's what you would genuinely want out of, not necessarily like, I don't think you want to be like, I'm an influencer, but you want to like gain like a voice, I guess, to like connect with other people.
Right.
Which is what social media is like all about. But it just gets like muddy in the waters when it's like, oh, well, one, there's people doing like performative stuff where it's all fake, so then there's like the side of people who don't trust influencers or just people online, and then there's like the people who maybe are like diehards, and then it's just like an extremist point of view, and then it just scares people because you're like, that's extreme, like I can't follow one or the other or whatever. Or you're just like, you feel like you're like everybody else. And you're like,
There's nothing different about me.
I don't know. I guess it's just like, because Christian, for example, he's one of those people who's like, he uses social media however he wants. Doesn't feel like any like pressure to post things or to not post things. Like he's just like, like if I want to post it, like yeah, I want to post it because it's cool. Like that was a cool moment in my life. And I'm like, respect. I go through a like 3-step process minimum, like, which picture's the best, what edit is the best, let me ask my friends. It's like ridiculous that I go through this entire process when it's my account,
right,
my thing, which like I feel like I've gotten a lot better at like not doing that, and I'll only do it if it's like for a brand or something, because obviously you want to like put your best foot forward for a brand. But yeah, it's just crazy to think of those people out there that just
do the thing.
Like, they're just living, and you're like, wow, respect for the go with the flow mentality.
See, that's the thing. I feel like there's, like, a good balance between the two. Like, if you're trying to be an influencer, if you're trying to have some sort of, like...
If that's your goal on...
Yeah. And that's fine. Like, don't let anybody make you feel... That's another thing. Like, there's another societal pressure that makes you feel like an influencer is either, like, unattainable, or it's just, like, it's stupid to do that kind of a thing. And it's like, no... You know, fuck them. Do what you want if that's what you really want. Do it for the right reasons, like we said. Like, do it for connectivity. Do it to influence good on the world, or like whatever. You have something to offer, right? So then do it for the good. There's a good balance between the two of like posting super like edited whatever pictures, planned posts, and also like living your life and posting it because it's cool.
Right.
I think like I've had the most. No, I'm not an influencer, but I've had the most engagement and most success when I was posting things genuinely because I liked them.
Yeah.
And because they fit best to what my life was about.
They spoke to you.
Right.
I guess the gist was just that social media, no matter who you are on it, whether you're like, you feel like you're just a regular person who posts, or a person who doesn't even care what they post, or you're someone who's on the complete opposite end, and is either an influencer or even further is like a performative person who just posts because that's what other people want. All of them are, I mean, maybe not all of them. Everyone except the person who doesn't care is like suffering from figuring out in what way they're being an imposter. Because you can also be a person who's like just regularly posting what they like, but you might be posting just things that you feel like other people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they just feel intimidated by social media in general, so they're like, I don't know, I'm just going to post what I think is cool. Yeah. But also, like, hopefully people aren't making fun of me because of what I posted, or like I'm thinking, like, people who are in their 40s, you know?
Yeah.
They don't know what to post. Like, they don't want their kids making fun of them, or their grandkids, like, making fun of them, being like, you, like, so lame, haha, or like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably a big thing, like feeling like I'm not allowed to be on social media because I'm too old or something. I don't know. Lots of different facets of social media that you can identify yourself in.
Totally.
But at the end of the day, it's never the truth. It's just things you tell yourself in your head.
Yeah.
So, do you be happy with what you do? Be genuine in your job, in your life, in everything, and the world will reward you, hopefully. That's all we can do. That's all we can do, right? We don't know for facts or anything like that, but
at least you'll feel good about yourself. and like what you are offering to the world. Yeah, just stay like genuine to who you are and authentic, and that's all you really can do. That's your best, and be okay with your best.
Yep. Practice the tips we talked about. The 3 steps: awareness, what you want to think, what you
want to be, whatever the thing is, and then practicing that in whatever form you want. Journaling, meditating on it, affirmations, or even just like in the moment, like if it happens, be like, all right, that's not true, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Be their accountability partners.
Totally.
That's it. It was kind of a heavy episode, I guess, you know? Kind of sucks to feel like you're a fraud.
Yeah.
But let us know what you guys want to hear from us next. We're not sure. We're always conflicted, like, oh, we talked about a really serious topic. Like, should we do a fun one next? Do you guys not care? Do you listen out of order anyways?
Let us know.
Let us know. And we will see you guys in next week's episode. Bye.